I never thought my wife could hide anything from me. Until the night she sat me down, her hands shaking, and whispered, "Promise you won't get angry." What she told me next shattered everything I believed about our marriage and the woman I thought I knew. My name is Harris. I'm 55 years old, and I've been married to my wife, Jenny, for 32 years. We met in college, fell in love over late-night conversations and shared dreams, and built what I thought was a rock-solid life together. We raised 3 kids in a small town in Ohio. I worked as an accountant. She taught elementary school. We were the couple everyone called boring in the best possible way. Faithful, honest, predictable, or so I thought. Last Tuesday, I came home from work to find Jenny sitting in our darkened living room. No lights on, no dinner started, just her sitting on the couch, staring at the wall. "Jen? What's wrong?" She looked up at me, and I saw pure terror in her eyes. The kind of fear I'd never seen before, not even when the kids were sick or when we thought we might lose the house during the recession. "We need to talk," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "About something that happened 15 years ago." My stomach dropped. 15 years ago. That would have been 2010. Emily was starting college. Jake was in high school. Sarah was still in middle school. What could have possibly happened back then? I sat down next to her. "Okay. Tell me." She took a shaky breath. "Do you remember Mark Brennan?" Mark Brennan. The name hit me like a punch. Mark had been my boss back then, the regional manager at the accounting firm where I worked. He'd been let go about 14 years ago for some kind of misconduct, and I'd gotten promoted into his position. I hadn't thought about him in years. "Yeah, I remember him. What about him?" Jenny closed her eyes. He blackmailed me, Harris." "What?" "He found out about something. Something from before we got married." Her hands twisted together in her lap. "You know how I told you I worked as a waitress that summer before senior year?" I nodded slowly. "I didn't just waitress. The restaurant I worked at. There was gambling in the back. Illegal gambling. I didn't know at first, but when I found out, I should have quit. I should have left. But the tips were so good, Harris. My mom needed help with medical bills, and I needed tuition money, and I kept working there." "Okay," I said carefully. "That was a long time ago. How did Mark—" "The place got raided my last week there. I was arrested, Harris, just for being there during the raid. The charges were dropped because I wasn't involved in the gambling itself. But there was a record. An arrest record." My mind was racing. Jenny had an arrest record. In all our years together, she'd never mentioned this. "Mark found it somehow," she continued. "He came to me one day when you were out of town for that conference. He said he'd done a background check on all the employees' families for some new insurance policy. That's when he found my record. And he threatened to tell me." She shook her head, tears starting to fall. "Worse. He said he'd send it to the school board. You know how strict they are about background checks for teachers. Even an old arrest record, even if charges were dropped. It could have cost me my job. And we needed my income. We had 3 kids, a mortgage, and you were still working your way up. If I lost my teaching position..." I felt cold spreading through my chest. What did he want? Jenny's whole body was shaking now. At first, just money. He said if I paid him $5,000, he'd keep quiet. So I scraped together everything I could. I borrowed from friends, sold some jewelry my grandmother left me, told you it had been stolen. I paid him. But he didn't stop. No. The word came out as a sob. 2 months later, he came back. Said he needed more. Another $3,000. Then again a few months after that. Over a year, I paid him almost $15,000. I was drowning, Harris. I picked up every extra tutoring job I could find. I was exhausted all the time, stressed constantly. But I didn't know what else to do. I stood up, needing to move. This was already worse than anything I could have imagined, but something in her face told me there was more. Jenny, what else? She looked down at her hands. The last time he asked for money, I told him I couldn't do it anymore. I had nothing left to give him. We were barely making ends meet as it was. And he changed what he wanted. Her voice dropped to almost nothing. He said if I couldn't pay him, there was another way I could make the problem go away. Just once, he said. Just one time, and he'd destroy the evidence he had, and it would all be over. The room started spinning. I knew what she was about to say, but I needed to hear her say it. What did he want, Jenny? She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. He wanted me to sleep with him. And Harris, I'm so sorry. I did it. I met him at a hotel one afternoon when you thought I was at a teacher training. And I went through with it. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. My wife, my Jenny, the woman I'd trusted completely for 32 years. You had an affair, I said, my voice sounding strange and distant. No, she said quickly. It wasn't an affair. I didn't want to. I felt sick the entire time. It was just that once, and I hated every second of it. But I thought it was the only way to protect our family, to keep my job, to keep everything together. That's still cheating, Jenny, I shouted. You slept with another man. You made that choice. I know, she sobbed. I know it was wrong. I should have just told you everything from the beginning. I should have faced the consequences, lost my job if that's what it took. But I was so scared, Harris. I was terrified of losing everything we'd built. I paced around the room, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might explode. Did it even work? Did he leave you alone after that? Yes. A week later, he got fired for harassing another employee's wife. He left town shortly after. I never heard from him again. And you never told me. 15 years, Jenny. 15 years you kept this from me. I wanted to tell you so many times, she said desperately. But as the years went by, it got harder and harder. How do you tell your husband something like this after 5 years, after 10? And you seemed so happy. Our life was good. I convinced myself that telling you would only hurt you for something that was already over. I stopped pacing and turned to face her. So why now? Why tell me after 15 years? She wiped her eyes with trembling hands. Because Mark is dead. He died 3 weeks ago. I saw his obituary online, and I realized I'd been carrying this secret all these years, partly out of shame, but partly because I was still afraid of him somehow. Afraid he'd come back, tell everyone, ruin everything, but he's gone now, and I couldn't carry this anymore. I couldn't keep lying to you, even if it was lying by omission. I sat down heavily on the chair across from her. My wife had been blackmailed, forced into an impossible situation, and she'd made a choice that broke my heart. But as I sat there, something else started to surface through my anger and hurt. I thought about that time 15 years ago. Jenny had been exhausted constantly. She'd lost weight. She'd had nightmares. I'd asked her what was wrong so many times, and she'd always said she was fine, just stressed about work. She hadn't been fine. She'd been going through hell. Did you have feelings for him? I asked quietly. God, no, she said with such revulsion that I believed her immediately. I felt dirty for months afterward. I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. The only reason I survived it was by telling myself I was protecting you, protecting our kids, protecting the life we'd built. You should have told me, I said, but my voice was less angry now, just sad. We could have faced it together. I know that now. But at the time, I was so ashamed of that arrest, so terrified of losing my job, so afraid of what you'd think of me. I made bad decisions on top of bad decisions, and by the time I realized how wrong it all was, I was in too deep. I looked at my wife, really looked at her. I saw the shame she'd carried for 15 years. The weight of that secret, that violation, that impossible choice. She'd been victimized by a predator who'd exploited her fear and her love for our family. Yes, she'd made choices I couldn't understand. Yes, she'd kept devastating secrets. But she'd also been trapped in a situation engineered by someone who knew exactly how to manipulate her. "I need to know something," I said, "and I need you to be completely honest with me. Was there ever anything else? Any other time? Any other person?" "Never," she said firmly, looking me straight in the eyes. "Before or after. Just that one horrible afternoon that I've regretted every single day since." I believed her. I don't know why, but I did. "I'm so angry right now," I told her. "I'm hurt and I'm angry and I feel betrayed. But I understand you were in an impossible situation." "Does that mean you forgive me?" she asked hopefully. "I don't know yet," I said honestly. "I need time, Jenny. I need to process this. I need to figure out if I can move past it." I stood up and grabbed my jacket. "Where are you going?" she asked, fear creeping back into her voice. "For a drive. To think. I'm not leaving you. Not right now, anyway. But I need space." I drove for hours, wrestling with my feelings. My wife had been blackmailed and sexually coerced by my former boss. That was assault, really. But she'd also chosen not to tell me, not to trust me to help her find another way. She'd made a decision that affected our marriage without giving me any say in it. Could I forgive that? Should I? I thought about our 32 years together, the life we'd built, the kids we'd raised, the hundreds of moments of joy and partnership. Could one terrible afternoon, one forced, coerced, hateful afternoon that she'd endured to protect our family, could that erase everything else? When I got home, it was almost midnight. Jenny was still awake, sitting in the same spot on the couch. I sat down next to her. "I've been thinking," I said, "about what marriage means, about what partnership really is." She looked at me, afraid to hope. "What Mark did to you was wrong. It was exploitation. It was sexual coercion. He was a predator who found your vulnerability and used it against you. But I still chose. You chose to protect our family the only way you thought you could," I interrupted. "It was the wrong choice. You should have come to me. We should have faced it together, gotten a lawyer, fought back. But you were scared and alone, and you did what you thought you had to do." Tears started falling down her face again. "Here's what I know," I continued. "You didn't have an affair. You didn't fall in love with someone else. You didn't choose him over me. You were victimized by someone who had power over you, and you survived it the best way you knew how. Does that mean—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "It means I'm not leaving," I said. "It means I love you, even though I'm hurt and angry. It means we're going to work through this. But Jenny, we need to go to counseling. We need to rebuild trust, and you need to promise me that you'll never keep something like this from me again." "I promise," she said, reaching for my hand. "Never again. No matter what. We face everything together from now on." We held each other that night, both of us crying. For what she'd endured, for the years of secret pain, for the trust that had been damaged, for the marriage we were choosing to fight for. The next week we started seeing a therapist. It's been 3 months now, and it's still hard sometimes. There are days when I look at her and feel the hurt all over again. But there are also days when I see how much lighter she seems, how the weight of that secret being gone has changed her. She told her principal about the old arrest record, explained everything. They were understanding and supportive. The fear she'd carried for 15 years turned out to be mostly in her head. People are more forgiving than we sometimes think. We're healing, slowly. It's not perfect, and maybe it never will be again. But we're choosing each other, every day. We're choosing honesty over fear, partnership over isolation, forgiveness over bitterness. Because here's what I learned. Marriage isn't about never facing darkness. It's about what you do when the darkness comes. Do you face it alone, or do you face it together? Do you let shame and fear destroy you, or do you find the courage to tell the truth, no matter how much it hurts? Jenny made mistakes. She kept secrets, but she also endured something terrible while trying to protect the people she loved. And when she finally found the strength to tell the truth, she risked losing everything for the chance at real honesty. That takes courage. I look at my wife now, and I see a survivor. Someone who carried an impossible burden for 15 years. Someone who finally found the strength to share it, even knowing it might destroy her marriage. We're not perfect. Our marriage has scars now, but we're still standing, still fighting, still choosing each other. And maybe that's what real love is. Not the absence of mistakes, but the decision to stay and heal together when mistakes happen. Mark Brennan is gone. The secret is out. And Jenny and I are finally, truly partners, facing the past, dealing with the present, and building a future where nothing stays hidden in the dark. That's worth fighting for.